The latex glove finger slid out of the chicken pot pie like a ghost from hell, and wrapped inside it was a jagged piece of metal sharp enough to kill. Darius Wellington stared at it under the fluorescent kitchen lights, his hands shaking, his heart pounding in his ears. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't negligence. This was something far darker, something deliberate, calculated, cruel. And as he looked around the staff break room, he realized with ice-cold horror that every black employee had been served a slice of that pie. Every single one. The white staff? They'd been given sandwiches instead. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. Hit that like button and stay with me until the end, because what happens next will shake you to your core. Darius Wellington had never imagined that his mother's dream would one day become his nightmare. The framed photograph on his office wall told a different story, a story of hope, sweat, and soul food. In the picture, his mother, Lorraine Wellington, stood in front of the very first location of Mama Lorraine's kitchen, her arms crossed over her apron, her smile as warm as the peach cobbler she'd been famous for. She'd started with nothing but a pressure cooker, a prayer, and a dream that her collard greens and cornbread could feed not just bellies, but spirits. 20 years later, that single storefront had grown into a beloved Atlanta institution with 5 locations scattered across the metro area. Darius had taken over when cancer claimed his mother 3 years ago, and he'd made a silent vow at her funeral. He would protect what she built. He would honor her legacy. He would never let her down. But now, sitting at his desk in the corporate office on a cold Monday morning in February, Darius felt that vow slipping through his fingers like sand. The manila folder in front of him was thin, but it weighed 1,000 pounds. Inside were 3 formal complaints, all filed within the last 6 weeks, all originating from the same location, the Buckhead restaurant. The words food poisoning, contamination, and severe illness appeared over and over like a drumbeat of doom. One complaint described violent vomiting and fever. Another detailed stomach cramps so severe the customer ended up in the emergency room. The third, the one that made Darius's blood run cold, was about a 7-year-old girl named Sophia Reeves who'd been hospitalized for 4 days after eating the fried chicken platter. A child. A little girl who'd trusted his restaurant to feed her something safe, something good. And instead, she'd nearly died. Darius rubbed his eyes, exhaustion pressing down on him like a physical weight. He'd been up half the night reviewing food safety logs, supplier records, and health inspection reports. Everything looked clean. Immaculate, even. The Buckhead location had passed its last 3 inspections with flying colors. The kitchen manager, Blake Carter, was a 15-year veteran of the restaurant industry with pristine references. On paper, nothing was wrong, but the pattern was undeniable. His desk phone buzzed. It was Monica, his operations director, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who'd worked with his mother since the early days. "Darius, Blake's on line 2, she said, her voice carefully neutral. "He wants to talk about the complaints." Darius punched the button harder than necessary. "Blake, talk to me." Blake Carter's voice came through smooth as butter, with just the right amount of concern. "Mr. Wellington, I know you're looking at those incident reports, and I want you to know we're taking this very seriously. I've personally reviewed every protocol in that kitchen. Our sanitation scores are perfect. Our suppliers are certified. I think what we're dealing with here is coincidence. Maybe a stomach bug going around. You know how people are quick to blame restaurants." "A 7-year-old was hospitalized, Blake." "I know, and that's tragic. But her family ate at 3 different restaurants that weekend. There's no proof it was us." Darius felt his jaw tighten. "What about the other 2 complaints?" "Settled. We offered compensation. They signed releases. Everyone's happy. No lawsuits, no public drama. Clean and quiet." "You paid them off." "I protected the brand, sir. That's my job." Darius wanted to reach through the phone and shake him. "Your job is to run a safe kitchen, Blake. Your job is to make sure nobody gets sick eating my mother's recipes." There was a pause, just long enough to feel deliberate. "With all due respect, Mr. Wellington, I've been doing this since before you wore long pants. Your mother trusted me. Maybe you should too." The line went dead. Darius sat there, anger simmering in his chest, staring at the photograph of his mother. She'd built this business on trust. Trust that her food was made with love, made with care, made right. People came to Mama Lorraine's kitchen not just for the taste, but for the feeling. The feeling that someone's grandmother had cooked for them. The feeling of home. If that trust was broken, everything his mother had built would collapse like a house of cards. He needed answers. Real answers. Not Blake's smooth explanations and hush money. Darius picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found Detective Raymond Cole, an old college friend who now worked in the fraud division of the Atlanta Police Department. They'd played basketball together at Morehouse, and Raymond owed him a favor from when Darius had catered his daughter's wedding for free. "Ray, it's Darius. I need advice." "What's going on, man?" Darius explained the complaints, the hospitalizations, the settlements. Raymond listened without interrupting, and when Darius finished, there was a long silence. "You think it's deliberate?" Raymond finally asked. "I don't know what to think, but something's not right." "Here's what I'd do if I were you," Raymond said slowly. "Don't go in there as the boss. Don't announce yourself. Don't give anyone time to clean up or cover their tracks. Go undercover. See what's really happening when nobody thinks you're watching." "Undercover in my own restaurant?" "It's the only way you'll get the truth. You roll up as the owner, everyone puts on a show. You go in as a new hire, you'll see everything." Darius leaned back in his chair, the idea taking root. It was risky. It was unusual. But it might be the only way to protect what his mother had built, and to make sure no other child ended up in a hospital bed because of his restaurant. "How would I even do that?" Darius asked. "Easy. Use a different name, dress down, say you're desperate for work. Kitchen staff turns over all the time. Nobody's going to question a new dishwasher. You work there for a week, maybe 2. Keep your eyes open. If there's something rotten, you'll find it." Darius looked at the manila folder, at the complaints, at the name Sophia Reeves, typed in neat letters at the top of one page. "I'll do it," he said. 3 days later, a man named David Williams walked through the back entrance of the Buckhead location of Mama Lorraine's kitchen. He wore faded jeans, a plain gray hoodie, and work boots that had seen better days. His usual neat fade had been grown out slightly and covered with a worn baseball cap. He carried no briefcase, no phone, just a fake ID, a fabricated work history, and a determination to find the truth. Darius had called ahead using a burner phone, posing as a desperate applicant who'd seen the "now hiring" sign in the window. Blake's assistant manager, a harried woman named Denise, had barely asked any questions before telling him to show up Thursday morning for a trial shift. "If you can handle the pace, the job's yours," she'd said. "We're short-staffed and it's Valentine's week. We need bodies." Now, standing in the staff entrance, Darius felt a strange mix of anxiety and resolve. This was his restaurant, built on his mother's recipes and reputation. But right now, he wasn't the owner. He was just another worker trying to make rent. The kitchen stretched out before him like a battlefield. Stainless steel prep stations gleamed under harsh fluorescent lights. Industrial stoves roared with open flames. The smell of frying chicken and simmering greens filled the air. Familiar, comforting, but somehow different when viewed from this angle. "You, David?" Darius turned to find a young man in his mid-20s, rail-thin with nervous eyes, and a Mama Lorraine's apron tied around his waist. His name tag read Jordan Ellis. "Yeah, that's me," Darius said, keeping his voice casual. "I'm Jordan, line cook. Denise said you're covering dish for the week. I'll show you the station." Jordan led him to a corner where an industrial dishwasher sat like a metal beast, steam rising from its open mouth. Towers of dirty plates, pots, and pans surrounded the area. "Basically, you keep the dishes moving. Spray, load, unload, repeat. Chefs get cranky if they run out of clean pans, so stay on it. You good?" "I'm good," Darius said, rolling up his sleeves. Jordan hesitated, glancing over his shoulder toward the main kitchen. "Look, man, just keep your head down, do your work, and don't ask questions. It's easier that way." Before Darius could respond, a booming voice cut through the kitchen noise. "Ellis, where the hell are my sauté pans?" A man emerged from the cook line, tall, broad-shouldered, mid-40s, with the commanding presence of someone who ruled his domain with an iron fist. He wore a chef's coat that was almost too white, too pristine, like he spent more time managing than cooking. His name tag identified him as Blake Carter, head chef. So this was the man who'd been running the Buckhead location, This was the man who'd paid off complaints and assured Darius everything was fine. "On it, chef," Jordan called back, his voice tight with tension. He grabbed a stack of clean pans and hurried toward the line. Blake's eyes swept over Darius with all the warmth of a prison guard inspecting an inmate. "You the new guy?" "Yes, sir. David Williams. Can you keep up?" "I can keep up." "We'll see." Blake turned and barked orders at a prep cook who'd apparently diced onions to the wrong size. The cook, a young woman with her hair in a tight bun, flinched at his tone but said nothing. Darius watched the interaction carefully. His mother had always treated her staff like family, firm when necessary, but never cruel. Blake's style was different. There was an edge to everything he said, a subtle threat beneath the words. Darius turned to the mountain of dishes and got to work. The next 5 hours passed in a blur of steam, soap, and relentless pace. Plates came at him in waves, stacks of them crusted with the remnants of fried catfish, mac and cheese, collard greens, and candied yams, pots that weighed 20 pounds when full of gumbo, skillets blackened from frying chicken. Darius's hands turned red and raw from the hot water, his back ached from standing, and his clothes were soaked with sweat and dishwater, but he kept his head down and his eyes open. He watched Blake move through the kitchen like a general surveying his troops, barking corrections, adjusting seasonings, inspecting plates before they went out. To the untrained eye, he looked like a perfectionist, someone who cared about quality. But Darius noticed other things. The way Blake's mood shifted when certain staff members walked by. The way he spoke differently to the white cooks than the black ones. The way he'd praise someone's work one moment, then tear them apart the next, keeping everyone off balance, everyone afraid. And he noticed the fear. It was in Jordan's eyes when Blake walked past, in the way the prep cook dropped her gaze whenever Blake addressed her, in the silence that fell over the kitchen whenever Blake entered the room. This wasn't a team. This was a dictatorship. During the afternoon lull, Jordan brought Darius a bottle of water and leaned against the dish station, exhaustion etched into his young face. "You surviving?" Jordan asked. "Barely," Darius said with a tired smile. "Does it always go this hard?" "This is nothing. Wait till Friday night." Jordan took a long drink of water, then glanced toward the office where Blake had disappeared. He lowered his voice. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "You ever work in a kitchen where something just felt off?" Darius's pulse quickened, but he kept his expression neutral. "Off how?" Jordan seemed to wrestle with himself, his fingers tapping nervously against the water bottle. "Never mind. Forget I said anything." "Jordan." Darius looked him square in the eye. "If something's wrong here, you can tell me." "I don't even know you, man. You know I'm the guy standing at the dish station just like you, trying to make a living. If there's something going on that could hurt people, don't you think someone should know?" Jordan stared at him for a long moment, and Darius could see the war playing out behind his eyes. The desperate need to tell someone, the fear of retaliation, the weight of whatever secret he was carrying. Finally, Jordan pulled out his phone and tapped the screen a few times. He held it out so only Darius could see. The video was grainy, shot from a bad angle, but clear enough. It showed Blake in the prep area late at night. The timestamp read 2:47 a.m. He was alone. He picked up a container of chicken breasts that had been sitting out, clearly no longer cold, and placed them directly into the marinade without washing them. Then he took vegetables that had fallen on the floor and tossed them into a salad mix. The video jumped to another clip, Blake wiping down a cutting board that had raw chicken on it, then immediately using it to slice tomatoes without sanitizing it first. Darius felt his stomach turn. "There's more," Jordan whispered. "I've got weeks of footage. I started recording because I kept seeing things that didn't make sense. Food that should have been thrown out getting served, temperature logs being faked, and the way he handles complaints." "What do you mean?" Jordan glanced around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned in closer. "Last month, a woman came in furious because she got sick. Blake took her to his office, and I heard them through the door. He offered her $2,000 cash right there if she'd sign something and never mention it again. She did." Darius's hands clenched into fists. "Why didn't you report this?" "To who?" "Blake's boys with the health inspector? I've seen him get advance notice before inspections. He cleans everything up, coaches everyone on what to say. And he made it clear what happens to people who talk." Jordan's voice dropped to barely a whisper. You remember Marcus, the guy who used to work grill? I just started, remember? Right. Well, Marcus tried to report Blake for safety violations. Next thing you know, Blake accused him of stealing from the register, got him arrested, made sure he couldn't work in any decent kitchen in Atlanta. Marcus lost everything, so yeah, I've been collecting evidence, but I didn't know what to do with it. Can't exactly walk into the owner's office when you're just a line cook. Darius wanted to tell him right then, I'm the owner. Give me everything you have and I'll fix this. But he couldn't break cover. Not yet. Not when he'd only seen a fraction of what was happening. Send me those videos, Darius said quietly. All of them. Jordan looked at him with surprise. Why? What are you going to do? I'm going to make sure the right people see them. And if Blake finds out I'm the one who... He won't. I promise you, he won't. Jordan studied him for another moment, then nodded slowly. There's a staff meal tonight. Blake always makes something special for the crew on Thursdays. You should eat it. Why? Because you need to see what he does. Before Darius could ask what that meant, Blake's voice cut through the kitchen again. Ellis, stop socializing and get back on the line. We've got tickets backing up. Jordan jumped like he'd been electrified and hurried back to his station. Darius returned to the dishes, his mind racing. The rest of the shift crawled by. Darius kept washing, kept watching, kept cataloging everything he saw. The way Blake would sometimes add ingredients to dishes without checking allergen lists. The way he'd berate staff for the smallest mistakes, making them so nervous they'd make more mistakes. The way he'd grab female employees by the shoulder, standing just a little too close, his hand lingering just a little too long. At 8 p.m., Blake called everyone to the back room for staff meal. It was tradition in restaurants. At the end of a shift, the kitchen would prepare food for the employees. Good kitchens made it a point of pride, a way to feed their people and boost morale. Darius's mother had always insisted on generous staff meals, made with the same care as customer orders. Tonight, Blake had prepared individual chicken pot pies, golden-crusted, steaming, and fragrant. He distributed them personally, moving around the room with a chef's pride. This is a new recipe I'm working on, Blake announced. You all get to be my test kitchen. Let me know what you think. He handed pies to Jordan, to Denise, to the prep cook, to 2 other line cooks, all black employees. Then he moved to a separate tray and pulled out submarine sandwiches, handing them to 3 white staff members. You guys get sandwiches tonight, Blake said with a smile. I know pot pie's not everyone's thing. Nobody questioned it. Staff took their food, exhausted and hungry, and started eating. Darius took his pie to a corner table, steam rising from the crust. It looked perfect. It smelled incredible. He picked up his fork, broke through the golden pastry, and scooped up a bite of chicken and vegetables in creamy sauce. The first bite was good, rich, savory, comforting. He took another, and then his fork hit something that didn't belong. Something soft. Something wrong. He pulled it out slowly, and his entire body went cold. It was a finger from a latex glove, the kind worn in kitchens to handle food. But this one was soaked through with pot pie filling, stained and degraded. And wrapped inside it like a gift from hell was a jagged piece of metal, a shard from a broken can lid, sharp enough to slice flesh, sharp enough to kill if swallowed. Darius looked up, his heart hammering in his chest. Around the room, every black employee was eating pot pie. Every single one. The white employees had sandwiches. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't negligence. This was deliberate, calculated, targeted. Jordan caught his eye from across the room, and Darius saw the same realization dawning on the young cook's face. Jordan set down his fork, his pie half-eaten, his expression shifting from confusion to horror. Darius's mind raced. How many pieces of metal were in these pies? How many glove fragments? Had anyone else found them yet, or had they already swallowed them? He looked toward Blake's office. The door was closed, but through the window, Darius could see him sitting at his desk, smiling at his computer screen. Every instinct screamed at Darius to storm that office, to reveal who he was, to grab Blake by the collar and demand answers. But Raymond's voice echoed in his head. If you blow your cover now, you might never get the full truth. Document everything. Build the case. Darius carefully wrapped the contaminated glove and metal shard in a napkin and slipped it into his pocket. Then he stood and walked calmly to the bathroom, his hands shaking, his stomach churning with rage and disgust. Inside the bathroom, he pulled out his phone, the burner he'd been carrying, and took photographs of the evidence. Then he texted Raymond. "I found something. It's worse than we thought. Need you to get here now with health inspector. Bring police." The response came within seconds. "On our way. Don't do anything until we arrive. Stay safe." Darius stared at himself in the mirror. His reflection looked like a stranger, tired, dirty, disguised. But beneath the dishwasher costume, he was still the son of Lorraine Wellington. He was still the man responsible for protecting everything she'd built. And he was about to bring down the person who'd been destroying it from the inside. He walked back out into the staff area, where employees were finishing their meals, oblivious to what they might have just eaten. Jordan was standing near the wall, his pie pushed away, his face pale. Darius caught his eye and gave him the smallest nod. "It's going to be okay. Help is coming." But first, he needed to confront Blake. He needed to get him to say something, do something, show something that would make the case airtight when the authorities arrived. Darius walked toward the office, his heart pounding, the evidence burning a hole in his pocket. Through the window, Blake looked up and smiled. That same confident, smooth smile he'd worn on the phone when he'd told Darius everything was fine. Everything was not fine. Everything was about to break wide open. And Darius Wellington was going to make damn sure that justice was served. Darius's hand was on the office door handle when Jordan appeared beside him, moving so quickly and quietly it startled him. "Don't," Jordan whispered urgently, his fingers gripping Darius's arm. "Not yet. If you go in there now, alone, with no witnesses, he'll spin it. He always does." Darius turned to face the young cook, seeing genuine fear in his eyes, but also something else. A desperate courage that came from watching injustice for too long. "I have evidence," Darius said quietly. "So do I. But it doesn't matter if we're not smart about this." Jordan pulled him away from the door, back toward the dish station where they could talk without being overheard. "I've been working here for 3 years. I've seen Blake destroy people who came at him the wrong way. We need to do this right." Darius wanted to argue, wanted to march into that office and end this nightmare immediately, but Jordan was right. He'd sent for help. Raymond and the health inspector were on their way. What he needed now was more evidence, more proof that would make Blake's guilt undeniable. "Show me everything," Darius said. "All of it." Jordan glanced around the kitchen. Most of the staff had finished eating and were cleaning up, getting ready to clock out. Blake was still in his office, visible through the window, typing on his computer with the satisfied expression of a man who believed he was untouchable. "Not here," Jordan said. "Meet me in the dry storage room in 5 minutes, and bring your pie." He walked away before Darius could respond, heading back to his station like nothing had happened. Darius returned to the dish area, his mind racing, the contaminated evidence still wrapped in a napkin in his pocket. Around the kitchen, his employees, people his mother had trained, people who trusted the Wellington name, were going about their duties completely unaware that they'd just been fed poisoned food by the man who was supposed to protect them. The rage that burned in Darius's chest was unlike anything he'd felt before. This wasn't just about business or reputation anymore. This was personal. This was about Blake Carter deliberately hurting people, targeting them based on the color of their skin, and doing it under the banner of his mother's legacy. 5 minutes felt like 5 hours, but finally Darius made his way to the dry storage room, a windowless space lined with metal shelving units stacked with industrial-sized containers of flour, rice, spices, and canned goods. A single bare bulb cast harsh shadows across the concrete floor. Jordan was already there, his phone in his hand, his face illuminated by the screen's glow. "Lock the door," Jordan said. Darius did, and Jordan immediately started swiping through his phone. "I've been documenting this for 8 months, ever since Blake took over as head chef last spring. Before him, this place was solid. Not perfect, but solid. The previous chef actually cared about food safety. Then Blake came in with his fancy resume and his connections, and everything changed." He held up the phone, showing Darius a video dated 6 months earlier. In the footage, Blake stood in the walk-in cooler, speaking to someone off camera. The audio was muffled but audible. "I don't care what the temperature log says," Blake's voice came through. "Write down whatever passes inspection. Nobody's going to check the actual thermometer. These people don't know the difference anyway. The video cut to another scene, Blake in the prep area, handling raw chicken with his bare hands, then wiping those same hands on his apron and immediately touching cooked food. No hand washing, no glove change, nothing. "That's just the beginning," Jordan said, his voice tight with suppressed anger. "Watch this." The next video showed Blake in his office, late at night, with a woman Darius didn't recognize. She was crying, holding her stomach, clearly in pain. "Please," the woman said, "my daughter is still in the hospital. The doctor said it was E. coli. She's only 7 years old." Blake's voice was smooth, almost kind. "I understand how upsetting this must be. But you ate at 3 different restaurants that weekend. There's no proof it came from us. However, because we value our customers, I'm prepared to offer you $5,000 as a gesture of goodwill. All you need to do is sign this document stating that you won't pursue any legal action or make any public statements about your experience." "But my daughter—" $5,000, Blake repeated, his voice firmer now. "Take it or leave it. If you choose to pursue this legally, I promise you'll spend more than that on lawyers, and you'll lose. We have the best food safety record in the city. Our inspections are flawless. Who do you think they're going to believe?" The woman had signed. Darius recognized her from the complaint files. This was Sophia Reeves's mother, the little girl who'd been hospitalized. The same case Blake had assured him was settled quietly. "Jesus Christ," Darius whispered. "There's more," Jordan said grimly. He showed video after video, temperature abuse, cross-contamination, falsified logs, food dropped on the floor and served anyway. But the worst footage was yet to come. Jordan pulled up a video dated just 2 weeks earlier. The timestamp showed 3:17 a.m., and the camera angle suggested it had been filmed from inside a cupboard or shelf, pointing down at the prep table. Blake was alone in the kitchen, working by the light of a single overhead fixture. He was making something, dough it looked like, rolling it out with methodical precision. But as Darius watched, Blake did something that made his blood run cold. He took a latex glove from a box on the counter, cut off one of the fingers with kitchen shears, and placed it deliberately into the dough. Then he reached into a trash bin and pulled out a broken can lid, the same type of jagged metal shard that Darius had found in his pot pie. Blake examined it, testing its sharpness with his thumb, and then wrapped it carefully inside the glove finger before folding it into the dough. He repeated this process 3 more times, creating 4 separate dough portions, each one containing a hidden weapon. Then he labeled them with masking tape and placed them in the walk-in cooler. The label read, "Staff meal, pot pie filling, use only for Thursday staff dinner." "He planned it," Darius said, his voice hollow with shock. "He planned to hurt them." "Not just hurt them," Jordan said. "I did some research after I saw this video. If someone swallows one of those metal shards, it can perforate their intestines. Internal bleeding, sepsis, emergency surgery. People can die from that." "Why?" Darius demanded. "Why would he do this?" Jordan's expression was bitter. "Because he can. Because he's got protection. Because he knows the system won't touch him." He paused, then added quietly, "And because he hates us." "Us?" "Black people. I didn't want to believe it at first, but once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Every serious complaint? Black customers? Every staff member he's driven out? Black employees, the people who get written up for minor mistakes while white staff get second chances? Us. And now this." He gestured at the phone. "Only the black staff got pot pie tonight. The white employees got sandwiches. That's not random." Darius felt sick. Not just physically sick from what he'd almost eaten, but soul sick from the realization that this kind of evil had been festering in his mother's restaurant, in a place built on the principle that good food and genuine care could bring people together regardless of who they were. "How did you get all this footage?" Darius asked. "I bought a cheap spy camera online, one of those things that looks like a USB charger. I've been moving it around the kitchen, hiding it in different spots, recording everything. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't go to Blake's bosses because he is the boss here. I couldn't go to the health department because he's got someone there warning him before inspections. I couldn't go to the police because what was I going to say? My chef is mean, and sometimes the food safety isn't perfect. They'd laugh me out of the station. But this, Darius said, gesturing at the phone. "This is evidence of assault, of attempted murder." "I know, but I'm just a line cook. Who's going to believe me over a man with Blake's reputation and connections?" Jordan's voice cracked slightly. "I've been waiting for someone, anyone, who might have the power to do something about it. And then you showed up, asking questions, and I thought maybe—" He trailed off, looking at Darius with a mixture of hope and desperation. This was the moment. Darius could reveal who he was, could tell Jordan that help was already on the way, that the nightmare was almost over. But something held him back, a need to understand the full scope of what had been happening, to see every corner of the corruption before he brought the hammer down. "Send me everything," Darius said. "Every video, every photo, every piece of evidence you have, and tell me everyone who got a pot pie tonight." Jordan rattled off names. Himself, Denise, Marcus, before he was fired, 2 other line cooks, and Darius. David Williams. 6 people, all black, all deliberately targeted. "Have you eaten any of your pie?" Darius asked. "About 3 bites before I realized something was wrong. I didn't find anything, but—" Jordan touched his stomach unconsciously. "I don't feel great. We need to make sure nobody else eats theirs. Quietly, without alerting Blake. Most people finished already. They were hungry." Darius's jaw clenched. "Then we need to get them checked out. If anyone swallowed metal or latex, they need medical attention immediately." "How are we going to do that without—" A knock on the storage room door made them both freeze. "Ellis? You in there?" It was Blake's voice, casual but with an edge of suspicion. "I need to talk to you." Jordan's face went pale. He mouthed silently to Darius. "He knows." Darius's mind raced. If Blake suspected that Jordan had been documenting his crimes, there was no telling what he might do. They were alone in a locked room, in a restaurant full of knives and fire, and places to hide evidence. "Just a second, Chef," Jordan called out, his voice admirably steady. "I'm doing inventory count." "Open the door, Jordan." It wasn't a request. Jordan looked at Darius, terror and determination warring in his eyes. Darius made a split-second decision. He pulled out the napkin containing the contaminated glove and metal shard, shoving it into Jordan's hands. "Hide this," he whispered. "No matter what happens, keep it safe. It's evidence." Jordan nodded and quickly tucked the bundle into his sock, pulling his pant leg down over it. Darius unlocked the door and opened it, stepping out first. Blake stood in the hallway, his chef's coat still pristine white, his expression carefully neutral but his eyes cold and calculating. "David," Blake said, acknowledging Darius with a slight nod before focusing on Jordan. "I need to discuss the prep schedule for tomorrow, my office, now." "Actually, Chef, I asked Jordan to help me with something," Darius interjected, keeping his voice casual. "I knocked over a whole shelf of rice bags and made a mess. He was showing me where we keep the cleaning supplies." Blake's gaze shifted to Darius, assessing him. For a moment, Darius wondered if the disguise had failed, if somehow Blake had seen through the worn clothes and fake name to recognize the owner of the restaurant. But Blake's expression remained merely annoyed. "The cleaning supplies are in the janitorial closet, not the dry storage," Blake said. "Jordan knows that." "Don't you, Jordan?" "Yes, Chef. Sorry, Chef, I got confused. Seems like there's a lot of confusion going around tonight." Blake's smile didn't reach his eyes. "How was your staff meal, gentlemen? Pot pie's a new recipe. I'm eager for feedback." The question hung in the air like a noose. "It was good," Jordan said, his voice barely steady. "Really good." "Finished the whole thing?" "Most of it." "And you, David?" Darius met Blake's stare without flinching. "Delicious. You're a talented chef." "I know." Blake's smile widened slightly. "I put a lot of care into everything I make, a lot of special attention, especially for staff meals. I like to make sure everyone gets exactly what they deserve." The emphasis on the last word was subtle but unmistakable. The sound of the back door opening echoed through the kitchen, followed by voices, authoritative voices that didn't belong to restaurant staff. Blake's expression flickered just for a moment before he composed himself. "Excuse me," he said curtly, and walked toward the kitchen. Darius and Jordan followed at a distance. Through the kitchen door, they could see 2 uniformed police officers and a woman in a suit carrying a clipboard, the health inspector. and behind them, his old friend Raymond Cole, dressed in plain clothes but with his detective's badge visible on his belt. Raymond's eyes found Darius immediately, a flicker of recognition quickly masked. They'd planned this carefully over text messages. Raymond would come as part of an anonymous tip about food safety violations, not mentioning Darius at all. It gave Darius plausible deniability to maintain his cover a little longer. "Can I help you?" Blake asked, his voice smooth and professional, the perfect restaurant manager greeting unexpected officials. "I'm Inspector Patricia Chen with the Fulton County Health Department," the woman said, showing her credentials. "We received a complaint about potential food safety violations at this location. I'm here to conduct an immediate inspection." "A complaint?" Blake's eyebrows rose in perfect surprise. "I'm shocked. We passed our last inspection with flying colors. In fact, I have all our documentation right here in my office. Let me show you." "That won't be necessary," Inspector Chen interrupted. "This is an unannounced inspection. I'll need to see your kitchen, your storage areas, and your food safety logs. Immediately." Blake's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Of course. Though I have to say the timing is curious. We just finished dinner service. The kitchen is in post-rush condition." "Which is exactly what we need to see," Inspector Chen said. "Real working conditions, not a prepared showcase." Raymond stepped forward. "I'm Detective Cole, APD. We're also here following up on reports of potential health code violations that may constitute criminal negligence." Criminal negligence. The words hung in the air like an accusation, and Darius saw Blake's mask slip for just a fraction of a second, a flash of genuine fear before the smooth confidence returned. "I'm happy to cooperate with any investigation," Blake said, "but I'd like to call our corporate attorney before we proceed." "You're welcome to have an attorney present," Raymond said evenly, "but the health inspection is happening now, with or without legal counsel. If you'd like to delay, we can shut down the restaurant until the inspection is complete. Your choice." Blake calculated, his mind clearly racing through options and consequences. Finally, he spread his hands in a gesture of cooperation. "No need for that. Please, inspect whatever you need. We have nothing to hide." Inspector Chen moved into the kitchen, her team behind her, pulling on gloves and beginning to examine surfaces, check temperatures, and review logs. Blake followed closely, playing the role of the concerned but confident manager, answering questions with well-rehearsed responses. Darius caught Raymond's eye and gave the slightest nod toward the dry storage room. Raymond understood, casually drifting away from the main group and following Darius and Jordan down the hallway. Once inside the storage room with the door closed, Raymond's professional demeanor cracked slightly. "Man, you look terrible, and you smell like a deep fryer." "Ray, we've got bigger problems than my hygiene," Darius said. "Blake Carter has been deliberately contaminating food and targeting black customers and employees. Jordan's been documenting everything." Jordan held up his phone. "I've got videos, months of them. Food safety violations, bribery, evidence tampering, all of it." Raymond's expression turned deadly serious. "Show me." For the next 10 minutes, Jordan played video after video. Raymond watched in silence, his jaw tightening with each clip, his detective's instincts cataloging evidence and building a case. When Jordan played the footage of Blake preparing the contaminated pot pies, Raymond actually swore. "This is attempted assault with a deadly weapon," Raymond said. "Maybe attempted murder depending on how the DA wants to charge it. How many people ate these pies?" "6 of us," Jordan said. "All black staff members. The white employees got sandwiches." "That's a hate crime enhancement," Raymond said grimly. He looked at Darius. "You got any of the contaminated food?" Darius nodded toward Jordan, who pulled the napkin-wrapped evidence from his sock. Raymond carefully opened it, photographing the latex glove finger and metal shard with his phone, documenting the chain of custody. "This is enough to arrest him right now," Raymond said. "But I need statements from both of you, and we need to check on everyone who ate that food. If Blake realizes we're onto him, he might try to destroy evidence or run." "He already suspects something," Darius said. "He was questioning Jordan before you arrived." "Then we need to move fast." Raymond pulled out his phone and sent a quick text. "I'm calling for backup and an ambulance. We need to get everyone who ate that pie checked out immediately. And I need you two to stay close. You're both witnesses. And if this goes to trial, your testimony will be crucial." "There's something else," Jordan said hesitantly. "Blake's got someone on the inside at the health department. someone who tips him off before inspections. That's how he's always passed with flying colors. He knows they're coming and cleans up beforehand. Raymond's expression darkened. You know who it is? I've heard Blake on the phone with someone he calls Tony. Always before inspections. Always warning him to make sure everything's spotless because Tony's sending someone by tomorrow. Tony Chen, Raymond said grimly. The health department supervisor, Patricia's boss. He thought for a moment. That's why I made sure Patricia didn't tell anyone where she was going tonight. Anonymous tip, immediate inspection, no advance warning. If there's corruption in her department, she doesn't know about it. The sound of raised voices from the kitchen interrupted them. Raymond opened the door a crack, and they could hear Blake's voice, no longer smooth but sharp with anger. This is harassment. I've shown you every log, every temperature reading, every certification. Our kitchen is spotless. Your kitchen is a disaster, Inspector Chen's voice came back, cold and professional. I found expired food in your walk-in, cross-contamination between raw and cooked items, falsified temperature logs. The ink is different colors on the same page, which means they were filled out at different times, and cleaning chemicals stored next to food prep areas. That's enough to shut you down right now. Those are minor violations. Every restaurant does not have metal shards and latex glove pieces in staff meals, Patricia Chen said, and Darius realized one of the other employees must have found contamination in their pie and reported it. Mr. Carter, I need you to show me exactly what ingredients went into tonight's staff pot pies, and I need to see them now. There was a moment of silence, and then Blake's voice, quieter but with an edge of desperation. I don't have to answer any more questions without my attorney present. Then this restaurant is closed, effective immediately, and you're not leaving until we've completed a full investigation. Darius heard the sound of footsteps, Blake moving quickly, probably toward his office. Raymond was already in motion, heading back toward the kitchen with Darius and Jordan behind him. They emerged into the main kitchen area just as Blake reached his office door. Inspector Chen stood nearby, flanked by her team and the two uniformed officers. She held up a clear evidence bag containing what looked like another piece of metal and a fragment of latex glove. Denise found this in her pie, Patricia said, right before she started vomiting. The ambulance is on its way for her. Now, Mr. Carter, would you like to explain how contamination ended up in food served to your employees? Blake's face had gone pale, but he forced a laugh. It must have been an accident. Kitchen equipment breaks sometimes, gloves tear. In a specific pattern that only affected your black employees? Raymond interjected, stepping forward with his badge visible. While your white staff got sandwiches. Blake's eyes darted between Raymond, the inspector, and the uniformed officers. Darius could see him calculating, looking for a way out, his smooth confidence finally cracking under the weight of evidence and authority. I want my lawyer, Blake said flatly. And I'm not saying another word until he's here. That's your right, Raymond said, but you're not going anywhere, and neither is any evidence in this restaurant. Officers, please escort Mr. Carter to the dining area and make sure he doesn't access his office or any other part of the restaurant unsupervised. The uniformed officers moved toward Blake, who held up his hands. This is ridiculous. I'm the head chef here. I have a right to— You have the right to remain silent, Raymond interrupted. I suggest you use it. Anything you say right now is going into my report. Blake stared at him with pure hatred, then allowed the officers to escort him out of the kitchen. As he passed Darius, their eyes met, and something shifted in Blake's expression, a flicker of recognition, a dawning realization. Wait, Blake said, stopping. I know you. You're not— Keep moving, one of the officers said, guiding Blake firmly toward the dining room. But the damage was done. Blake had recognized him, or at least suspected. Darius's cover was blown. Raymond caught Darius's eye and gave a slight nod. It was time. Darius pulled off his baseball cap and met Inspector Chen's surprised gaze. Inspector Chen, I'm Darius Wellington. I own this restaurant. Blake Carter has been contaminating food, bribing customers, and falsifying safety records for months. I went undercover to gather evidence because he had convinced me everything was fine. It's not fine, and I want him prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Patricia Chen's eyes widened. You're the owner? I am, and I take full responsibility for what's happened here. I should have seen it sooner. I should have looked harder, but I'm seeing it now and I'm not going to let it continue. He turned to Jordan. "Show her the videos." Jordan stepped forward, phone in hand, and began showing Inspector Chen the footage he'd collected. As she watched, her expression shifted from surprise to disgust to professional fury. "This is criminal," she said quietly. "This is deliberate, systematic contamination and fraud. Mr. Wellington, I'm going to need statements from everyone involved, and this location is shut down until we've completed a full investigation and remediation." "Shut it down," Darius said without hesitation. "Quarantine every piece of food. Check every surface. I want to know exactly what he did and how far it went." "We'll need to contact everyone who's eaten here in the past few months," Patricia continued. "If there's been systematic contamination, I'll provide every receipt, every transaction, every customer contact we have," Darius said. "And I'll personally reach out to anyone who filed a complaint. No more hush money, no more cover-ups. Just the truth and whatever compensation they deserve." The sound of sirens outside announced the arrival of the ambulance for Denise and anyone else who needed medical attention. More police cars followed, Raymond's backup. The small restaurant kitchen suddenly felt crowded with officials, all of them moving with purpose, collecting evidence, taking statements, photographing everything. Darius stood in the middle of it all, still wearing his dishwasher's clothes, his mother's restaurant, her dream, being torn apart by investigators. But he felt no regret. This was necessary. This was right. Better to burn it down and rebuild it honestly than to let Blake's poison continue spreading. Jordan approached him quietly. "Mr. Wellington, I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I didn't know how—" "Don't apologize," Darius interrupted. "You did exactly what you should have done. You documented everything, you protected the evidence, and you tried to stop it. You're a hero, Jordan. Not a lot of people would have had the courage to do what you did." Jordan's eyes filled with tears. "I just didn't want anyone else to get hurt." "Neither did I." Darius put a hand on the young man's shoulder. "And because of you, we're going to make sure they don't." Raymond joined them, his phone pressed to his ear, having a terse conversation with someone about warrants and evidence preservation. When he hung up, he looked at Darius with grim satisfaction. "We're getting a warrant for Blake's office, his phone records, his computer, everything," Raymond said. "And based on what Jordan's shown us, the DA is already talking about multiple felony charges: criminal negligence, assault with a deadly weapon, food tampering, evidence destruction, fraud. If we can prove he bribed that health inspector, add corruption charges, this guy's going away for a long time." "Good," Darius said simply. In the dining area, through the kitchen door, they could see Blake sitting at a table, his pristine chef's coat looking increasingly disheveled, his confidence completely gone. He looked small now, powerless, just a cruel man who'd finally been caught. But Darius knew the real work was just beginning. Blake's arrest was just the first step. There were customers to contact, victims to compensate, a restaurant to rebuild from the ground up. His mother's legacy had been tarnished, but it wasn't destroyed. Not yet. Not if Darius could help it. Inspector Chen approached with a clipboard. "Mr. Wellington, I need to inform you officially that this location is under health department closure until further notice. No food service, no food preparation, no access to the kitchen except for authorized investigators. You'll receive a full report of our findings within 72 hours. "I understand. I also need to inform you that, as the owner, you may face liability for the violations that occurred here even if you weren't directly responsible." "I accept that," Darius said. "Whatever consequences come from this, I'll handle them. I just want to make sure nobody else gets hurt." Patricia's expression softened slightly. "For what it's worth, what you did, going undercover to find the truth, that took courage. A lot of owners would have just fired the whistleblower and moved on." "My mother built this restaurant on trust and honesty," Darius said. "I'm not going to dishonor her memory by doing anything less." As the night wore on, statements were taken, evidence was collected, and one by one, the staff members who'd eaten the contaminated pot pies were checked by paramedics. Denise was transported to the hospital for observation. 2 others showed signs of stomach distress but were cleared to go home with instructions to return immediately if symptoms worsened. Jordan, miraculously, seemed to have avoided the worst of it. The few bites he'd taken apparently hadn't contained any contamination. By midnight, the restaurant was empty except for Darius, Raymond, and a single uniformed officer stationed to protect the scene. Crime scene tape crossed the front door. The lights were dimmed. The kitchen that had once been filled with the sounds of cooking and laughter and his mother's recipes now stood silent and cold. "You should go home," Raymond said. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. Media, lawyers, corporate damage control." "I know," Darius said, but he didn't move. He stood in the kitchen, looking at the prep stations, the stoves, the walk-in cooler where Blake had stored his poisoned pies. "Ray, what if there are more? More contaminated food? More Blakes? More locations where something's wrong and I don't know about it?" Darius felt the weight of it crushing down on him. "I have 5 restaurants. I thought I knew what was happening in all of them, but I didn't know about this. What else am I missing?" Raymond was quiet for a moment. "You can't be everywhere at once. You're one person trying to run a business and honor your mother's memory. But you can learn from this. You can set up better systems, better oversight, better ways for employees to report problems without fear." Jordan was terrified to come forward, Darius said. He had months of evidence and nowhere to take it because he thought no one would believe him. That has to change. "So change it." Darius nodded slowly. "I will. Anonymous reporting system, direct line to me that bypasses management, regular unannounced visits to every location. And I'm going to talk to every employee personally, make sure they know they can come to me if something's wrong." "That's a start," Raymond agreed. "But Darius, you need to prepare yourself. When this hits the news, and it will hit the news, people are going to have questions. Some of them are going to blame you. Your business is going to take a hit." "Let it hit," Darius said with quiet determination. "I'd rather lose everything and do the right thing than keep something my mother wouldn't be proud of." His phone buzzed with a text from Monica, his operations director. She'd heard about the police presence and was asking if everything was okay. Darius replied briefly, asking her to meet him at the corporate office first thing in the morning. They had a lot to discuss. Another text came in, this one from an unknown number. Darius opened it and felt his blood chill. "You think you've won? You have no idea what you've started. There are people above me who won't let this stand. Watch your back, Wellington." Darius showed it to Raymond, who immediately began tracing the number. "It's from a burner phone, probably untraceable, but I'll try." And Darius? He's right about one thing. If Blake had protection, if someone was tipping him off about inspections, this goes deeper than just one corrupt chef. "Then we dig deeper," Darius said. "However far it goes, we follow it." As they finally locked up the restaurant and walked out into the cold February night, Darius looked back at the darkened building. His mother's face smiled at him from the faded sign above the door, Mama Lorraine's Kitchen. She looked proud in that photograph, proud of what she'd built. Darius made a silent promise to her. He would fix this. However long it took, however much it cost, he would clean out every bit of corruption and rebuild her legacy the right way. Not with shortcuts or cover-ups or hush money, but with honesty, integrity, and the same values she'd taught him. The nightmare wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But Darius Wellington was ready to face it. The threatening text message burned in Darius's mind all through the sleepless night that followed. He sat in his home office until dawn, going through personnel files for all 5 restaurant locations, looking for patterns he'd missed, connections he hadn't seen. Every manager, every chef, every supervisor, he scrutinized their employment history, their references, their performance reviews. Blake Carter's file was impeccable on paper, which only made Darius more suspicious of everyone else whose records looked too perfect. By 6 a.m., he'd made a list of 12 employees across his other locations who'd been hired around the same time as Blake, all with stellar references, all placed in positions of authority. He didn't know yet if they were problems, but he was going to find out. Monica arrived at the corporate office at 7:30, her usual composed expression strained with worry. She'd been with Darius's mother from the beginning, a steady presence through expansion and growth, and finally through Lorraine's illness and death. If anyone deserved to know the full truth, it was her. Darius told her everything. The complaints, the undercover investigation, the contaminated food, Blake's arrest. He watched her face go through a progression of emotions, shock, horror, anger, and finally a deep, weary sadness. "I should have seen it," Monica said quietly when he finished. I do quarterly reviews of all locations. I talk to staff. How did I miss this? Blake was careful, Darius said. He targeted people who were afraid to speak up. He paid off complaints before they became public. He had someone on the inside at the health department warning him before inspections. You couldn't have known. But I should have. Monica's hands trembled slightly as she poured herself coffee from the pot Darius had made. Lorraine trusted me to protect what she built, and I let a monster run one of her kitchens. We both did, Darius said, but we're going to fix it, starting now. He laid out his plan. Immediate unannounced inspections at all 4 remaining locations, conducted by Darius himself with Raymond and a trusted health inspector Raymond had recommended. Anonymous tip lines for employees to report concerns without fear of retaliation. Mandatory retraining on food safety for every single staff member. And most importantly, personal meetings with every employee to make it clear that the culture of fear and silence was over. That's going to be expensive, Monica said. Training, inspections, potential settlements with victims. And when this hits the news, when, not if, Darius confirmed. When this hits the news, we're going to lose business. People are going to be afraid to eat at any of our locations, not just Buckhead. We might have to close restaurants. We might lose everything. Then we lose everything, Darius said firmly. But we do it honestly. No spin, no PR whitewash. We tell the truth, we make it right. And we prove through actions that Mama Lorraine's kitchen is safe again. That's the only way forward. Monica studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Lorraine would be proud of you. It takes courage to burn it down and rebuild. I'm not trying to be courageous, Darius said. I'm just trying to do right. His phone rang. Raymond's name flashed on the screen. We've got a problem, Raymond said without preamble. Blake made bail 2 hours ago. Darius felt ice water flood his veins. How? With the charges against him? His lawyer argued he's not a flight risk, has strong community ties, no prior record. Judge set bail at $50,000. Someone posted it immediately. Blake walked out at 5 a.m. Who posted it? That's the interesting part. It was paid by a company called Hospitality Solutions Group. Ever heard of them? No. Neither had I, so I did some digging. HSG is a management consulting firm that works with restaurants and hotels. They provide staff, consulting, training, and according to their client list, they've worked with your restaurants. Darius pulled up his computer, searching through vendor contracts. There it was. Hospitality Solutions Group contracted 18 months ago to provide management training and staff placement services. The contract had been signed by Monica during a period when they were expanding and needed to hire quickly. Monica, Darius called out, did you work with a company called Hospitality Solutions Group? She came to his office door. HSG, yes. They helped us recruit management staff when we opened the new locations. They came highly recommended, had great references. Why? They just posted Blake's bail. Monica's face went pale. That doesn't make sense. They're just a staffing company. Are they? Raymond's voice came through the phone speaker. Because I'm looking at their corporate structure, and it's a maze. Shell companies, offshore accounts, board members with no digital footprint. This isn't a normal business, Darius. This is a front for something bigger. The pieces started falling into place in Darius's mind. Blake's confidence that he was untouchable, his connections at the health department, the smooth way complaints disappeared, the threatening text message warning that there were people above me. Ray, how many of my managers came through HSG? Checking now. The sound of typing came through the phone. Looks like 7 employees across your 5 locations, all placed by HSG over the past 18 months. Blake Carter at Buckhead, obviously. Let me pull up the others. Raymond read off names, and with each one, Darius felt his stomach sink further. 3 kitchen managers, 2 general managers, a procurement supervisor, and Blake, all in positions of power, all placed by the same company, all hired with glowing references that now seemed too perfect to be real. This is a conspiracy, Darius said slowly. Someone deliberately infiltrated my restaurants. But why? Monica asked. What's the end game? To destroy your business? To take it over? I don't know yet, Raymond said, but I'm going to find out. Darius, I need you to be very careful. If Blake's out on bail and backed by people with resources, You could be in danger. That text message last night wasn't an idle threat. I'm not hiding, Darius said. I have 4 other restaurants to check, and I'm doing it today. Then take someone with you. Don't go alone. Darius agreed, and they ended the call. He looked at Monica, seeing his own fear and determination reflected in her eyes. We need to move fast, he said, before anyone has time to cover their tracks. Which location should we hit first? Downtown, Monica said immediately. That's where Marcus Chen is the kitchen manager. He came from HSG, and he's always been off. Nothing I could put my finger on, but staff turnover there is high, and I've had complaints about his management style. Then downtown it is. Get Raymond's health inspector contact on the phone. We're doing this by the book, with official oversight. I want everything documented. 2 hours later, Darius walked into the downtown location of Mama Lorraine's kitchen with Monica, Raymond, and Inspector Patricia Chen, who'd agreed to conduct surprise inspections at all his locations. The morning breakfast rush was in full swing, the smell of coffee and bacon and fresh biscuits filling the air. Customers sat at tables reading newspapers and scrolling through phones, completely unaware that the owner was among them, dressed in casual clothes, observing everything. Marcus Chen stood at the host stand, a thin man in his 40s with wire-rimmed glasses and a permanent expression of mild irritation. He was checking the seating chart when he noticed their group approaching. Can I help you? Marcus asked, his tone professional but cool. Health department inspection, Patricia said, showing her credentials. We need access to your kitchen, storage areas, and all food safety documentation. Marcus's expression didn't change, but Darius saw his hand tighten on the edge of the host stand. Of course, though I wish you'd given us advance notice. That's not how surprise inspections work, Patricia interrupted. Please show us to the kitchen. I'll need to call our corporate office first. No, you won't, Darius said, stepping forward. I'm the corporate office. I'm Darius Wellington, and I own this restaurant. Take us to the kitchen, now. Recognition flashed across Marcus's face, followed by something else. Calculation. He reached for his phone, but Raymond was faster, his detective's badge visible as he moved to block Marcus. You can cooperate voluntarily, or we can get a warrant and shut you down while we wait for it, Raymond said calmly. Your choice. Marcus set down his phone. The kitchen is this way. They followed him through the dining room into the kitchen, where the morning crew was working efficiently. Eggs on the griddle, biscuits in the oven, grits simmering on the stove. It all looked normal, professional, exactly as it should be. But Darius had learned that appearances meant nothing. Patricia and her team began their inspection while Darius and Monica watched. Temperature checks, surface swabs, documentation review. The staff worked around them nervously, clearly unsure what was happening. Can I speak to you privately? Darius asked one of the line cooks, a young woman whose name tag read Tasha. She glanced at Marcus, who was watching from across the kitchen, then nodded and followed Darius to a quiet corner near the walk-in cooler. How long have you worked here? Darius asked gently. About 6 months. How's it been? Any problems? Tasha's eyes darted to Marcus again. It's fine. Good job. Good pay. Tasha, I need you to be honest with me. I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I'm trying to make sure everyone here is safe. Have you seen anything that worried you? Anything that didn't seem right? She was quiet for a long moment, and Darius could see the same war playing out that he'd seen in Jordan's eyes at Buckhead. The need to tell the truth versus the fear of consequences. Sometimes food gets reused, she finally whispered. Like, if a customer sends back a dish that wasn't touched, Marcus will tell us to serve it to someone else. And I've seen him change dates on food containers to make them seem fresher than they are. But that's probably normal, right? Restaurants have to save money. No, Darius said firmly. That's not normal, and it's not okay. What else? The cleaning schedule. Marcus tells the health department we clean every night, but we only do deep cleans before inspections. The rest of the time, it's just surface stuff, and… She hesitated. There's a storage room in the basement that Marcus keeps locked. Only he has the key. He says it's for expensive ingredients, but I don't know, it seems weird. Where's the storage room? Down the stairs at the end of the hall. The door has 3 locks on it. Darius thanked her and walked back to where Raymond was standing. He relayed what Tasha had told him, and Raymond's expression darkened. A locked storage room that only the manager can access? That's not normal restaurant practice. No, it's not. They approached Marcus, who was hovering near Patricia as she reviewed temperature logs. Mr. Chen, I need access to your basement storage area, Patricia said. I don't have the keys with me, Marcus said smoothly. They're at my apartment. I can bring them tomorrow to eat. Break the locks, Darius said to Raymond. You can't do that, Marcus protested. That's destruction of property. It's my property, Darius said coldly. And if you're refusing access, that tells me there's something down there you don't want us to see. Either give us the keys or we break the door down. Marcus's face had gone from pale to flushed. I want to call my lawyer. Call whoever you want, Raymond said. But we're going into that room. Darius, show me where it is. Tasha pointed them toward the stairs, and Darius led Raymond and Patricia down to the basement. The stairwell was dimly lit, the concrete walls painted institutional beige. At the end of a hallway lined with old equipment and storage boxes, they found the door, heavy steel with 3 industrial locks, completely out of place for a simple storage room. Raymond tried the handle, locked. He examined the locks and shook his head. These aren't standard restaurant locks, son. These are the kind of locks you use when you really don't want someone getting in. Break it, Darius said again. Raymond called up to one of the uniformed officers who'd accompanied them, and within minutes, they had a bolt cutter. The locks gave way one by one with sharp metallic snaps that echoed in the basement. The door swung open, and the smell hit them immediately. Chemical, acrid, wrong. Raymond found the light switch, and fluorescent bulbs flickered to life, revealing a sight that made Darius's blood run cold. The room was set up like a laboratory. Shelving units held dozens of containers with handwritten labels. Expired meat, resell. Contaminated batch, repackage. Recalled product, redistribution. There was a vacuum sealer, a label maker, boxes of generic packaging, and in the corner, a filing cabinet stood with its drawers slightly open. Patricia pulled on gloves and began examining the containers while Raymond went straight for the filing cabinet. He pulled out folder after folder, his expression growing grimmer with each one. Darius, you need to see this, Raymond said. The folders contained documentation of a systematic operation, expired food purchased from suppliers at deep discounts, repackaged with new dates, and sold to restaurants, including Darius's own locations. Recalled products that should have been destroyed, instead relabeled and redistributed. Contaminated ingredients mixed with clean batches to dilute the contamination and make it harder to trace. And there were financial records showing payments to Marcus Chen from Hospitality Solutions Group, bonuses for meeting distribution targets, coded notes about problem management, and a contact list that included Blake Carter's name and phone number. This isn't just about your restaurants, Raymond said. This is a criminal operation using your business as a front. HSG places their people in management positions, then uses those positions to distribute contaminated and expired food while skimming profits. They probably have people in dozens of restaurants across the city. Darius felt like the ground had dropped out from under him. How long has this been going on? Patricia held up a ledger. According to this, at least 2 years. Maybe longer. 2 years, Darius repeated, the words hollow. My mother was still alive 2 years ago. This started while she was dying, while I was taking over, while everything was chaos and no one was watching closely enough. They exploited your vulnerability, Raymond said quietly. When a business is in transition, that's when predators move in. Footsteps on the stairs made them all turn. Marcus Chen appeared at the door, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. His face was ashen, his earlier composure completely gone. You can't, Marcus started. Save it, Raymond interrupted. Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for food tampering, fraud, conspiracy to distribute contaminated products, and about a dozen other charges we're going to add once we finish cataloging this room. You have the right to remain silent. As Raymond read Marcus his rights, Darius stood among the evidence of betrayal and corruption, his mother's restaurant being used as a tool to poison people. The scope of it was staggering. If this was happening at downtown, what was happening at the other 3 locations? His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, just like the night before. You're making a mistake. Walk away now. Shut up. and you might keep one or two locations. Keep digging, and you'll lose everything. We've got people everywhere." Darius showed it to Raymond, who immediately started tracing it. "They're watching you," Raymond said. "They know you're here." "Let them watch," Darius said, his voice hard with determination. "I'm not walking away." "We're inspecting every single location today, and we're finding everyone who's part of this." Monica had joined them in the basement, her face stricken as she looked at the contaminated food and false documentation. "How many people have gotten sick because of this? How many people have we hurt?" "We didn't hurt them," Darius said firmly. "These criminals did. But we're going to make it right. Every customer who filed a complaint, every person who got sick, we're going to find them, compensate them, and tell them the truth." "That could bankrupt us," Monica said. "Then it does. But we do the right thing." Patricia finished photographing the room and turned to Darius. "Mr. Wellington, I need to inform you that given the scope of what we've found here, I'm recommending that all your locations be shut down pending a complete investigation." "All of them?" Monica gasped. "I can't certify any of them as safe until we've inspected every inch and verified that no other contaminated products are being stored or served. It could take weeks." Darius felt the weight of it crushing down. His mother's legacy, 20 years of work, 5 restaurants full of employees who depended on their paychecks, all of it grinding to a halt. But what choice did he have? He couldn't let even one more person get sick because he'd prioritized business over safety. "Do it," Darius said. "Close them all. Whatever it takes to make sure they're safe." Monica made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. "Lorraine would have done the same thing." "I know." Raymond finished with Marcus, who was led away by the officers, still silent, his face a mask of resignation. Once he was gone, Raymond pulled Darius aside. "This is bigger than I thought," Raymond said quietly. "If HSG has people in multiple restaurants, if they've been operating for years, we're talking about an organized crime operation. Food service fraud is a billion-dollar industry. Expired products, contaminated imports, fake organic certifications. These people are connected, well-funded, and clearly willing to threaten you. I need you to take this seriously." "I'm taking it seriously." "I mean, your safety. They've already threatened you twice. They've proven they're willing to hurt people. I want you to have protection." "I'm not living in fear," Darius said. "I'm not letting them intimidate me into silence." "Then at least be smart about it. Don't go anywhere alone. Check your car before you get in it. Vary your routine, and if you get any more threats, call me immediately." Darius agreed, though part of him still couldn't quite believe he was having a conversation about personal safety. This was supposed to be about running restaurants, honoring his mother's memory, serving good food. How had it turned into organized crime and death threats? They spent the rest of the day conducting inspections at the remaining 3 locations. At each one, they found the same pattern: an HSG-placed manager, hidden storage areas, contaminated products, falsified records. The scale of the operation was breathtaking. Thousands of pounds of expired and contaminated food, distributed across Atlanta's restaurant scene, all of it flowing through businesses like Darius's that had trusted the wrong people. By evening, all 5 Mama Lorraine's kitchen locations were officially closed, yellow tape across the doors, notices posted announcing health department violations. Darius stood outside the original location, the one his mother had opened 20 years ago, the one that had started everything, and stared at the closed sign with tears burning in his eyes. Monica stood beside him, her usual composure finally cracking. "What are we going to tell the staff? What are we going to tell the customers? What are we going to tell the media when they find out?" "The truth," Darius said. "All of it. No sugarcoating, no spin. We tell them what happened, we tell them what we're doing to fix it, and we tell them that if they ever trusted Mama Lorraine's kitchen before, they should trust it now because we're proving we care more about their safety than our profits." "That's a hell of a gamble." "It's the only play we have." His phone rang. The number on the screen was local but unfamiliar. "Mr. Wellington?" The voice was female, professional, cold. "My name is Victoria Harrison. I'm the CEO of Hospitality Solutions Group. I think we need to talk." Darius felt his entire body tense. "I have nothing to say to you." "I think you do. What's happening to your restaurants right now is unfortunate, but it doesn't have to be permanent. My organization has resources. We can make this go away. The investigations, the charges, the media coverage. We can restore your reputation, reopen your locations, even help you expand. All you have to do is cooperate. Cooperate how? Stop talking to the police, fire your lawyer, accept that what happened was the result of a few bad employees who've already been dealt with. Let us bring in our own management team to clean up, and in 6 months this will all be a bad memory. And if I refuse? Victoria's voice dropped several degrees. Then you'll find out how deep this goes. The health department violations we've uncovered are just the beginning. There are labor law violations, tax discrepancies, permit issues. We've documented everything. We can make sure you spend the next 5 years in court, hemorrhaging money on legal fees until there's nothing left of your mother's legacy but bankruptcy filings and bad memories. You're threatening me, Darius said, his voice hard. I'm offering you a solution. You're a businessman, Mr. Wellington. Think like one. You can't win a war against people you can't even see. But you can survive if you're smart. I'll take my chances. Then you're a fool, and fools don't last long in this industry. The line went dead. Darius stood there, phone still pressed to his ear, rage and fear warring inside him. They weren't just threatening his business anymore. They were threatening to destroy everything, his reputation, his finances, his future, and they had the power to do it. Raymond had been listening to the conversation, his phone held up to record it. That's witness intimidation and extortion. We can use this. She'll deny it, say it was taken out of context. Probably, but it shows pattern and intent. Darius, these people are serious. They have resources, connections, and no moral boundaries. You need to understand what you're up against. I understand, Darius said, but I'm not backing down. Monica's phone buzzed, and she checked it, her face going pale. The story just broke. Channel 5 News is running a piece about health violations at our restaurants. They have footage of the closures, interviews with former customers who got sick, everything. She held up her phone, and Darius watched the news segment with a sinking heart. The reporter stood outside the Buckhead location, the closed sign visible behind her, describing a pattern of food safety violations at the beloved Atlanta soul food chain. Former customers spoke on camera about illnesses, hospitalizations, unanswered complaints. The reporter mentioned Blake Carter's arrest, the contaminated staff meals, the systematic fraud. And then came the question that made Darius's blood run cold. Where was owner Darius Wellington while all this was happening? Did he know about the violations? And if so, why didn't he stop them? The segment ended with the reporter promising more details as this story develops. And the implication was clear. Darius wasn't just a victim of fraud. In the public's eye, he might be complicit. We need to get ahead of this, Monica said urgently. We need to issue a statement. Schedule a press conference. Control the narrative. No, Darius said. No statements through spokespeople. No carefully worded press releases. If I'm going to tell this story, I'm telling it myself, directly to the people. How? Darius thought for a moment, then pulled out his phone. I'm going live. Social media. Right now. No filter, no script, just the truth. Darius, that's a terrible idea, Monica protested. Without legal review, without PR coaching, I don't need coaching to tell the truth, Darius said. He opened the camera app on his phone, switched it to video mode, and before Monica could stop him, hit the button to start a live broadcast on the restaurant's social media account. His own face appeared on the screen, tired and determined, standing in front of his mother's original restaurant with the closed sign visible behind him. My name is Darius Wellington, he began, his voice steady. And I need to tell you what's been happening at my restaurants. For the next 15 minutes, he told them everything. The complaints he'd ignored, the investigation he'd conducted, Blake's arrest, the contaminated food, the discovery of the criminal operation. He told them about the basement storage rooms, the expired products, the systematic fraud. He told them about HSG, about the infiltration, about the threats he'd received, and he told them what he was going to do about it. I'm shutting down every location until I can personally guarantee they're safe, Darius said to the camera, to the growing number of viewers watching live. I'm cooperating fully with law enforcement and health inspectors. I'm reaching out to every customer who ever filed a complaint and offering full compensation, no strings attached. And I'm promising you that when these restaurants reopen, If they reopen, they will be run the way my mother intended, with integrity, with care, and with the understanding that your trust is worth more than any profit. He paused, gathering his thoughts, his emotions raw and visible on camera. Some of you are going to ask why you should believe me, why you should trust someone who let this happen under his own roof. And the truth is, I don't have a good answer. I failed. I was so focused on honoring my mother's memory that I didn't see the people who were destroying it from the inside. That's on me, but I'm going to spend however long it takes to make this right. Not because it's good business, not because my lawyers told me to, but because it's the right thing to do. That's what my mother taught me, and I'm not going to let her down again. He ended the broadcast and lowered his phone, suddenly exhausted. Monica stared at him with an expression somewhere between admiration and horror. "That was either the bravest thing you've ever done," she said slowly, "or the stupidest." "Probably both," Darius admitted. His phone immediately started buzzing with notifications, comments, shares, reactions. Some were supportive, praising his honesty. Others were angry, demanding refunds and accountability. Still others were threats, ugly and vicious, from people who didn't believe him or didn't care. And then one notification stood out from the rest. A direct message from an account with no profile picture and a string of random letters for a username. "You just signed your death warrant. We gave you a chance. Now you're going to learn what happens to people who don't cooperate." Darius showed it to Raymond, who immediately got on his phone, calling for additional police protection. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Raymond said urgently. "Now, these people aren't playing." But before Darius could respond, another message came through. This one included a photograph, a picture of Sophia Reeves, the 7-year-old girl who'd been hospitalized from Blake's contaminated food. She was at a playground, laughing, alive and healthy. The message that accompanied it made Darius's hand shake with rage and fear. She recovered nicely, didn't she? Be a shame if something happened to her. Or to any of the other children who eat at restaurants in Atlanta. You have 24 hours to shut up and play ball. Or we start hurting people, and we'll make sure everyone knows it's your fault. The photograph of Sophia Reeves turned everything from a business crisis into something far darker. Darius stared at the image of the little girl on the playground, her braids bouncing as she went down the slide, completely unaware that someone had been watching her, photographing her, using her as leverage. The message wasn't subtle. These people were willing to hurt children to protect their operation. Raymond snatched the phone from Darius's hands, his detective's instincts taking over. "We need to get protective details on the Reeves family immediately. And on you. This isn't a game anymore. These are credible threats against a minor." "They're using her to get to me," Darius said, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "They think I'll back down if they threaten innocent people." "Will you?" Raymond asked bluntly. Darius looked at him, then at Monica, then back at the photograph. Every instinct screamed at him to protect that little girl, to do whatever it took to keep her safe. If backing down meant she stayed unharmed, wasn't that the right choice? Wasn't her safety worth more than his pride or his business? But then he thought about all the other children, the ones who would eat contaminated food tomorrow, next week, next year if this operation continued. The ones whose parents trusted restaurants to feed them safely, who had no idea that people like Victoria Harrison and Blake Carter were systematically poisoning them for profit. If Darius backed down now, those children would keep suffering, and their blood would be on his hands just as surely as if he'd served them the poisoned food himself. "No," Darius said finally. "I'm not backing down, but we need to make sure Sophia and her family are protected, and we need to move faster than these people expect." Raymond was already on his phone, coordinating with the police department. Within minutes, he'd arranged for patrol cars to be stationed at the Reeves home and at Sophia's school. He also called in favors to get protection for Darius and Monica and to accelerate the investigation into Hospitality Solutions Group. "We're treating this as organized crime now," Raymond explained as he worked. "That means FBI involvement, task force resources, the whole 9 yards. But Darius, it also means you need to be smart. These people have already proven they'll hurt kids. They won't hesitate to hurt you." "Let them try," Darius said, but Monica grabbed his arm. "Don't be stupid," she said sharply. "You can't fight these people if you're dead, and you can't honor Lorraine's memory if you get yourself killed trying to be a hero." "I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm trying to stop criminals." "Then do it the smart way. Raymond interjected. We set a trap. We give them what they think they want, draw them out, and nail them with everything we've got. Darius's phone rang again. This time the number belonged to Jordan Ellis, the young line cook from Buckhead, who'd risked everything to document Blake's crimes. Mr. Wellington? Jordan's voice was shaking. I just got a visit from 2 men. They said they knew I talked to the police. They said if I testify against Blake, my little brother, his voice broke. My brother's 12 years old. They know where he goes to school. They showed me pictures of him. Where are you right now? Darius demanded. I'm at home, but they just left. Mr. Wellington, I can't let anything happen to my brother. He's all I've got. Our parents are gone. It's just us. And, Jordan, listen to me, Darius said, forcing his voice to stay calm and steady. I'm sending police protection to you right now. Give me your address. Jordan rattled it off, and Raymond immediately dispatched units. But the damage was done. Jordan was terrified, and Darius couldn't blame him. The kid had been brave enough to stand up to Blake, to document months of crimes, to risk his job and his safety. Now he was being threatened through his little brother. They're hitting everyone connected to this, Monica said grimly. Staff, victims, witnesses. They're trying to make sure no one talks. Darius thought of all the employees across his 5 locations, dozens of people who'd seen things, who knew things, who might be willing to testify. How many of them were getting visits right now? How many were being threatened? How many would choose silence to protect their families? We need to get ahead of this, Darius said. Raymond, can you set up a safe house? Somewhere we can bring witnesses, get statements, keep them protected until trial? I can try, but the resources, I'll pay for it, Darius interrupted. Whatever it costs. Hotels, security, everything. These people put their trust in me when they came forward. I'm not letting them face this alone. Raymond nodded and got to work. While he made calls, Darius pulled up the contact information for every employee at his restaurants and started sending messages. The text was simple and direct. If anyone has approached you with threats or bribes, call me immediately. I will protect you. I will not let them hurt you or your families. Responses started coming in within minutes. A prep cook at the Midtown location had been offered $5,000 to claim she'd never seen any food safety violations. A dishwasher at the West Side restaurant had been followed home from work by a car with tinted windows. A server at the original location had found a note in her mailbox warning her to forget what you saw. The scope of the intimidation campaign was staggering. HSG wasn't just threatening a few key witnesses. They were systematically terrorizing everyone connected to Darius's restaurants. They're playing for keeps, Raymond said when Darius showed him the messages. This is witness tampering on a massive scale. We can charge them with dozens of felonies just based on this. We have to catch them first, Darius pointed out. That's where you come in. Raymond pulled out a recording device small enough to fit in a shirt pocket. Victoria Harrison called you once. She'll call again, especially after your little social media broadcast. When she does, we need you to draw her out. Get her to make specific threats, specific offers. Get her to incriminate herself. You want me to wear a wire? I want you to help us build an airtight case. These people are connected, Darius. They've got money and lawyers and probably politicians in their pocket. The only way we take them down is if we have evidence so strong they can't weasel out of it. Darius took the device, turning it over in his hands. His mother had raised him to tell the truth, to be straightforward, to deal with people honestly. Now he was being asked to deceive, to manipulate, to play spy games with criminals. But what choice did he have? If this was what it took to stop them, he'd do it. Okay, Darius said. Tell me what you need me to say. They spent the next hour planning. Raymond coached him on how to keep Victoria talking, how to get her to reveal details about the organization, how to make her feel confident enough to threaten him explicitly. It felt dirty and wrong, but Darius forced himself to focus on the bigger picture. This wasn't about his comfort or his principles. This was about stopping people who hurt children. The call came at 9 p.m., just as Raymond had predicted. Victoria Harrison's number appeared on Darius's screen, and he nodded to Raymond before answering. The recording device was in his pocket, capturing everything. Mr. Wellington, Victoria's voice was cool and professional, as if she hadn't threatened him earlier. I saw your social media video. Very dramatic, very foolish. I told the truth, Darius said, following Raymond's coaching to stay calm and keep her talking. People deserve to know what happened. What people deserve is irrelevant. What matters is what they believe. And right now, thanks to your little performance, they believe you're a victim. But that can change very quickly. One well-placed story about your mismanagement, your negligence, your personal profiting from substandard food, the narrative can shift just like that. You'd fabricate evidence against me? We wouldn't need to fabricate anything. Every business has skeletons, Mr. Wellington. Every owner has made decisions they'd rather not see in the harsh light of a criminal investigation. How carefully did you vet your suppliers? How closely did you monitor your expenses? How certain are you that every tax return you've ever filed was completely accurate? It was a fishing expedition, trying to see if she could find leverage. Darius kept his voice steady. My business is clean. No business is clean, but that's beside the point. What I'm offering you is a way out, a way to protect yourself, your employees, and yes, even people like little Sophia Reeves. There it was, an explicit reference to the threatened child. Raymond nodded encouragingly, gesturing for Darius to press further. What do you mean, protect Sophia? Darius asked. I mean that accidents happen, Mr. Wellington. Children get sick. They eat at restaurants all over this city, and if a pattern of illnesses emerged at multiple establishments, not just yours, well, that would be tragic, and everyone would ask why you didn't do more to prevent it when you had the chance. You're saying you'd poison more children if I don't cooperate? Victoria laughed, a cold sound devoid of humor. I'm saying that the food service industry is vast and complex. My organization has people in over 200 restaurants across the Southeast. We handle food distribution, staff placement, quality control. If we wanted to ensure that products with certain characteristics ended up in certain locations, well, that would be well within our operational capacity. That's a confession to conspiracy to commit assault, Darius said, abandoning the pretense. You just admitted you could poison people deliberately. There was a pause on the line, and Darius could almost hear Victoria's smile. Did I? I don't think that's what I said at all. I spoke in hypotheticals. I discussed operational capabilities. But if you're recording this conversation, and I suspect you are, Mr. Wellington, you'll find that I've been very careful with my words. Nothing I've said constitutes an admission of wrongdoing. She was right, and they both knew it. She'd danced right up to the line without crossing it, using language that was threatening but technically deniable. However, Victoria continued, I think we both understand the situation. You have a choice to make. You can continue this quixotic crusade, work with the police, testify against our associates, and see your business destroyed in the process. Or you can accept reality. You're a small fish in a very large pond, Mr. Wellington. You can't fight us, but you can survive us. All you have to do is be reasonable. Define reasonable. Drop your cooperation with law enforcement. Issue a statement saying you've discovered that Blake Carter and Marcus Chen were rogue employees acting without your knowledge or approval. Accept our offer to help you rebuild with proper management oversight. And most importantly, stop making noise. No more dramatic social media videos. No more interviews with reporters. You take your lumps quietly, you rebuild quietly, and everyone moves on. And if I refuse, then you'll discover just how deep our connections go. The health department violations you've already found, those are nothing compared to what we can manufacture. OSHA complaints, labor law violations, tax audits, immigration issues with your staff. We can make your life a bureaucratic nightmare for years. We can make sure you spend every dollar you have on legal fees. We can make sure no supplier will work with you, no distributor will touch you, no landlord will rent to you. We can erase you from this industry completely. You're threatening to destroy me if I don't help cover up your crimes. I'm offering you a business arrangement. You scratch our back, we'll leave yours intact. This is how the world works, Mr. Wellington. The sooner you accept that, the less painful this will be. I'll take my chances, Darius said, his voice hard. Victoria sighed, the sound almost disappointed. Then you're forcing our hand. Whatever happens next, remember that we gave you options. We tried to be reasonable. You're the one who chose the hard way. The line went dead. Raymond played back the recording, his expression grim. She's good. She implied everything but admitted nothing that would stand up in court. But she confirmed they have people in 200 restaurants, Darius said. That's huge. That means this is way bigger than just my locations. Which means we need federal involvement. This is racketeering, conspiracy, organized crime across state lines. Raymond was already texting someone. I've got a contact at the FBI. This is their kind of case. While Raymond worked his connections, Darius sat down at one of the dining tables in his closed restaurant, exhaustion finally catching up with him. It had been less than 24 hours since he'd found the contaminated glove in the pot pie, but it felt like a lifetime. His entire world had been turned upside down, and he was only now beginning to understand the true scope of what he was fighting. Monica brought him coffee, her own face drawn with fatigue. You should go home. Get some sleep. You're no good to anyone if you collapse. I can't sleep, Darius said. Every time I close my eyes, I see that picture of Sophia, and I think about all the other kids out there who might eat contaminated food tomorrow because I wasn't fast enough to stop this. You're one person, Darius. You can't save everyone. But I can try. His phone buzzed with another message, but this time it wasn't a threat. It was from Jordan Ellis. Mr. Wellington, the police are here with me and my brother. We're safe. Thank you. And I want you to know, I'm still willing to testify. Whatever they threatened, I won't let them win. My brother deserves to grow up in a world where bad people face consequences. We both do. Darius felt something tight in his chest loosen slightly. Jordan was still with him. The kid had been threatened, terrified, but he wasn't backing down. If Jordan could be that brave, Darius had no excuse not to be. More messages came in from other employees. Some were scared and wanted protection. Others were angry and wanted to help. A few were defiant, refusing to be intimidated. One by one, his staff were choosing courage over fear, truth over silence. They were choosing to stand with him. Raymond finished his calls and came over to the table. FBI is interested. They're sending a team tomorrow morning to review everything we've got. But Darius, you need to understand, this is going to get worse before it gets better. HSG is going to fight back hard. They've got resources and they're already threatening witnesses. The next few weeks are going to be brutal. I know. Do you? Because I don't think you fully grasp what you're up against. These aren't just criminals. They're organized, sophisticated, and connected. They've probably been operating for years without consequences because they know how to work the system. They know how to intimidate, how to bribe, how to make problems disappear. Then it's time someone made them disappear, Darius said quietly. A sound from the front of the restaurant made them all turn. Someone was at the door, rattling the handle, trying to get in. Through the glass, Darius could see a figure in a hooded sweatshirt, face obscured. Raymond's hand went to his weapon. Stay back, he ordered, moving toward the door. The figure saw Raymond approaching and raised their hands, pulling back the hood. It was a woman, young, maybe mid-20s, with fear written across her face. She pressed a piece of paper against the glass. Please, her muffled voice came through. I need help. I work for HSG. I can give you evidence. Raymond looked back at Darius, a question in his eyes. It could be a trap. It could be someone HSG sent to infiltrate, to find out what they knew. But it could also be exactly what she claimed, someone on the inside who wanted out. Let her in, Darius said. Raymond unlocked the door cautiously, keeping his body between the woman and Darius. She stumbled inside, looking over her shoulder at the empty street behind her like she expected someone to follow. Thank you, she gasped. I didn't know where else to go. My name is Lisa Chen. I'm Tony Chen's daughter, the health department supervisor who's been taking bribes from HSG. I've been working in their main office for 3 years, and I can't do it anymore. I can't watch them hurt people. Why now? Raymond asked suspiciously. Why come forward today? Because I saw your video, Lisa said, looking at Darius. The one where you said you were shutting everything down to make it right. And I realized someone with power was finally fighting back. Everyone else just takes the money or gets scared off. But you didn't. You chose people over profit. And I thought, maybe if someone like you is brave enough to do that, I can be brave enough to tell the truth. What truth? Darius asked. Lisa pulled a flash drive from her pocket. Everything. Client lists, financial records, payment receipts, internal communications. I've been copying files for months, ever since I figured out what they were really doing. I kept telling myself I'd report it someday, but I was scared. My dad's involved, my job depends on them, and I've seen what they do to people who cross them. But after your video, after seeing that you were willing to lose everything to do the right thing, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Raymond took the flash drive carefully. If this is legitimate, if it contains what you say it does, you could be in serious danger. I know, Lisa said, her voice trembling. They probably already know I left. They track our computer access. They'll figure out I copied files. But I don't care anymore. I'm so tired of being part of something evil. She looked at Darius with tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what they did to your restaurants, to those people who got sick. I knew it was happening and I didn't stop it. That makes me complicit. That makes me guilty too. But I want to fix it. Please let me help fix it. Darius saw himself in her. The guilt, the desperation to make things right, the weight of knowing you'd let something terrible happen on your watch. He understood that feeling all too well. You can help, he said gently, by telling the truth, by giving us that evidence, by testifying when the time comes. I will, Lisa promised. I'll tell them everything. About the bribes, the threats, the way they infiltrate restaurants and use them as distribution points, about the offshore accounts where they hide the money, about the politicians and health inspectors and food suppliers who are all part of it. I'll tell them all of it. Raymond was already on his phone again, calling for FBI agents to come take Lisa's statement and secure her as a witness. While they waited, Lisa told them about HSG's operation in more detail. It was even worse than they'd thought. The organization had been running for over a decade, starting small with basic food fraud and growing into a multi-state operation that corrupted every level of the food service industry. They had people in health departments, distribution companies, restaurant chains, even food banks and school lunch programs. They target struggling restaurants, Lisa explained. Businesses that are losing money, owners who are desperate. They offer management help, better suppliers, creative solutions for cutting costs. Once they're inside, they start replacing expensive fresh ingredients with cheaper expired or contaminated alternatives. They pocket the difference. The restaurants think they're saving money through better efficiency. They don't realize they're serving dangerous food until people start getting sick. How many restaurants? Raymond asked. Over 200 active clients across 6 states. Maybe more. They're always expanding. And the threats? The intimidation? That's Blake's specialty. He's not just a chef, he's their enforcer. When someone figures out what's happening and threatens to talk, Blake makes sure they don't. Sometimes it's bribes, sometimes it's threats, and sometimes, Lisa's voice dropped, sometimes people just disappear. There was a restaurant owner in Birmingham who was going to go to the police. He never made it. They called it a robbery gone wrong, but I saw the internal emails. They planned it. Murder. They were talking about murder now. Darius felt sick, but also strangely validated. He'd been right to take this seriously, right to refuse to back down. These people were dangerous, and they needed to be stopped. The FBI agents arrived 40 minutes later, 2 serious-looking men in suits who introduced themselves as Special Agents Martinez and Johnson. They took possession of the flash drive, secured Lisa as a material witness, and spent 3 hours taking statements from everyone present. By the time they finished, it was after midnight. Mr. Wellington, Agent Martinez said, based on what we've heard tonight, we're opening a full investigation into Hospitality Solutions Group and its associates. This is now a federal case involving racketeering, food tampering, witness intimidation, and possibly homicide. We'll be assigning protective details to you and your key witnesses. We'll also be coordinating with local police and health departments to identify all contaminated food sources and shut them down. How long will that take? Darius asked. Weeks, maybe months. Cases like this are complex. But Mr. Wellington, I want you to understand something. You did the right thing by coming forward. A lot of people in your position would have just paid the hush money and moved on. But by standing up, by refusing to be silenced, you may have saved countless lives. Children who won't get sick because this operation gets shut down. Families who won't suffer because contaminated food gets pulled from the market. That matters. It should have felt like a victory. But as Darius drove home that night, with a police escort following to make sure he arrived safely, all he felt was tired. Tired and angry and sad. His mother's restaurants were closed. His employees were scared. A little girl had been threatened. A young man's brother had been used as leverage. And somewhere out there, Victoria Harrison and people like her were planning their next move, trying to figure out how to destroy him before he could destroy them. The fight was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But as Darius finally collapsed into bed at 2 a.m., he made himself a promise. No matter what came next, threats, intimidation, legal battles, financial ruin, he would see this through. He would protect his people. He would honor his mother's legacy by refusing to let criminals use it as a shield for their evil. And he would make damn sure that when this was over, Mama Lorraine's kitchen stood for something good again. His phone buzzed one last time before sleep finally claimed him. A text from an unknown number, but this time the message was different. "We're watching you, Wellington. Sleep tight." Darius read it, then turned off his phone and closed his eyes. Let them watch. Let them threaten. He wasn't backing down. The threat lingered in Darius's mind through what little sleep he managed. But when morning light crept through his bedroom window, he felt something unexpected. Not fear, but clarity. He'd spent years trying to preserve his mother's legacy by maintaining what she'd built. Now he understood that the only way to truly honor her was to rebuild it completely, with absolute transparency and uncompromising standards. Everything else was just keeping up appearances. His phone showed 47 missed calls and over 200 messages. Media outlets wanting interviews, customers demanding refunds, employees asking about their jobs. And buried among them, one message that made him sit up straight in bed. It was from Sophia Reeves's mother, time-stamped at 6 a.m. "Mr. Wellington, this is Angela Reeves. The police told me someone threatened my daughter because of your case. I need to talk to you. Please call me." Darius dialed immediately, his stomach churning with guilt and anxiety. Angela answered on the first ring. "Mrs. Reeves, I'm so sorry," Darius started, but she cut him off. "Don't apologize," Angela said firmly. "The police explained everything. I know what Blake Carter did. I know he poisoned my daughter deliberately. And I know that you're the one who exposed it, who shut down your own restaurants to protect people like us. Mr. Wellington, I called because I want to help." "Help how?" "I want to testify. I want to stand up in court and tell everyone what happened to Sophia, how she almost died from food that man contaminated. And I want other parents to know that you did the right thing, that you chose their children's safety over your business. That matters, Mr. Wellington. That matters more than anything." Darius felt his throat tighten with emotion. "They threatened her. They took pictures of her at the playground. I know, and I'm terrified, but I can't let fear win. If I stay silent, if I let them intimidate me, then Blake and his people get away with it. And next time, it might not be Sophia who gets sick. It might be some other mother's child. Some other little girl might not survive. I can't live with that." "You're incredibly brave." "No," Angela said quietly. "You're brave. I'm just a mother doing what mothers do, protecting not just my child, but all children. You're a businessman who gave up everything to do what's right. That's a different kind of courage." After they hung up, Darius sat for a long moment, staring at his mother's photograph on his nightstand. She looked back at him with that knowing smile, and he could almost hear her voice. "Baby, doing right ain't always easy, but it's always worth it." He showered, dressed, and headed to the corporate office where Raymond and the FBI agents were waiting. The conference room had been transformed into a command center, whiteboards covered with names and connections, boxes of evidence stacked against the walls, laptops displaying financial records and surveillance footage. Agent Martinez looked up as Darius entered. "Good timing. We've been analyzing the flash drive Lisa Chen provided. It's a gold mine. Client lists, payment schedules, internal communications that explicitly discuss contaminating food and bribing officials. We have enough here to bring down not just HSG, but their entire network." "How many people are we talking about?" Darius asked. 37 individuals directly employed by HSG, plus another 68 who took bribes or participated in the scheme. Health inspectors, suppliers, restaurant managers. We're executing search warrants across 6 states starting at noon today. By tonight, this operation will be completely dismantled. It should have been satisfying news, but Darius felt no triumph. What about the contaminated food that's already out there? The restaurants that are still serving it. Health departments are coordinating simultaneous inspections at all 214 restaurants identified in HSG's records. Any location found with contaminated products will be shut down immediately. We're also issuing a public health alert warning people about specific product batches and lot numbers. The media is going to have a field day with this, Monica said from the doorway. She'd arrived while they were talking, looking as exhausted as Darius felt. 200 restaurants, 6 states. This is going to be the biggest food safety scandal in decades. Which means Mama Lorraine's kitchen is going to be at the center of it, Darius said. We're going to be the face of this disaster. Or the face of accountability, Raymond suggested. You exposed it. You shut down your own business to stop it. You cooperated with investigators. That's not the same as the owners who took bribes and looked the other way. Agent Johnson spoke up. Mr. Wellington, we'd like you to participate in a press conference this afternoon. FBI, CDC, state health departments, we're all making a joint statement. Having you there explaining how you discovered the fraud and what you did about it, that sends a powerful message. Darius wanted to refuse. He didn't want to stand in front of cameras and reporters, didn't want to become a public figure in this nightmare. But he thought about Angela Reeves, willing to testify despite threats to her daughter. About Jordan Ellis, still prepared to take the stand even after his brother was threatened. About Lisa Chen, who'd risked everything to hand over evidence. If they could be brave, so could he. I'll do it, Darius said. The press conference was held at 3 p.m. in the Federal Building downtown. The room was packed with journalists, cameras, and concerned citizens. Darius stood at a podium flanked by FBI agents, health officials, and the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. Agent Martinez spoke first, laying out the scope of the investigation. Then came the CDC representative, explaining the health risks. Then the U.S. Attorney, announcing the indictments that were being filed against 37 defendants, including Blake Carter, Marcus Chen, Victoria Harrison, and Tony Chen. Finally, it was Darius's turn. He looked out at the sea of faces and cameras, took a deep breath, and began. My name is Darius Wellington. I own Mama Lorraine's Kitchen, a restaurant chain my mother started 20 years ago with nothing but a dream and a pressure cooker. She built it on the principle that good food, made with care and integrity, could bring people together. She believed that when you invited someone to your table, you were taking on a sacred responsibility to feed them safely. His voice was steady, but he could feel emotion building beneath the words. I failed that responsibility. Not because I deliberately hurt anyone, but because I didn't see what was happening under my own roof. I trusted the wrong people. I missed the warning signs. I believed that passing health inspections meant everything was fine. I was wrong. And because of my failure, people got sick. A 7-year-old girl nearly died. Families suffered. And my mother's legacy was used as a shield for criminals to hide behind. He paused, letting that sink in. When I discovered what was happening, I had a choice. I could do what many business owners do, pay settlements quietly, fire a few people, and move on. Or I could burn it all down and rebuild it right. I chose the second option. I shut down every one of my restaurants. I went to the police. I cooperated fully with investigators. And I'm here today to tell you that I will not reopen a single location until I can personally guarantee it's safe. A reporter shouted a question, but Darius raised his hand. I know what you're going to ask. How long will that take? What's it going to cost? Am I going to survive this financially? And the honest answer is, I don't know. It might take months. It might cost everything. I might lose my business entirely. But I'd rather lose my business than lose my integrity. I'd rather go bankrupt than have one more child end up in a hospital because I cut corners or looked the other way. He looked directly into the cameras. To everyone who ate at my restaurants and got sick, I'm sorry. I'm deeply, profoundly sorry. You trusted me and I let you down. To my employees who are scared and uncertain about their jobs, I promise you, if there's any way to rebuild this company honestly, I will. And you'll be part of it. To the other restaurant owners who might be in my position, who might have HSG or companies like them in their operations, I'm begging you, look closer. Check your suppliers. Talk to your staff. Don't wait for a child to nearly die before you act. The questions came rapid fire after that. Reporters wanted details, wanted drama, wanted him to blame specific people or defend specific choices. But Darius kept his answers simple and honest. Yes, he felt guilty. Yes, he should have seen it sooner. No, he didn't know if his business would survive. Yes, he'd testify at every trial necessary. No, he wasn't going to hide behind lawyers or PR teams. After 45 minutes, Agent Martinez ended the conference, but reporters followed Darius out of the building, shouting questions. Raymond and the FBI agents formed a protective barrier until they reached Darius's car. "You did good," Raymond said as they drove away with a police escort. "You told the truth. That's all you can do." "It doesn't feel like enough," Darius admitted. "It never does. But it's a start." Over the next 3 weeks, the case exploded across national news. The FBI raids were dramatic. Agents and windbreakers storming HSG offices, seizing computers and documents, leading executives out in handcuffs. Blake Carter's arrest footage went viral, showing him trying to run from his apartment building while agents tackled him. Victoria Harrison was arrested at an airport trying to flee to the Cayman Islands with $2 million in cash. The health department raids revealed horrors that made Darius physically ill. Warehouses full of expired food with relabeled dates, contaminated meat mixed with clean batches, rat droppings swept up and ground into spice mixes. Bleach used to mask the smell of rotting produce. The scope of the contamination was so vast that the CDC issued a national alert, and grocery stores across the Southeast pulled thousands of products from their shelves. Restaurants began closing by the dozens, not just because they were implicated in the scheme, but because customers were terrified to eat out. The food service industry took a hit that would take years to recover from. And at the center of it all, Mama Lorraine's kitchen became a symbol, both of the problem and of the solution. Darius spent those weeks doing the hardest work of his life. He personally contacted every customer who'd filed a complaint, offering full compensation without requiring them to sign non-disclosure agreements. Some accepted. Some were still too angry. A few thanked him for his honesty. He set up a victim assistance fund and contributed $100,000 of his own money to help people with medical bills. He met with every employee, explaining the situation, promising that he'd do everything possible to bring them back once the restaurants were safe. Some believed him. Some didn't. Jordan Ellis hugged him and cried, saying he'd work for Darius again in a heartbeat. Others looked at him with betrayal in their eyes, angry that their livelihoods had been destroyed even though Darius had done the right thing. He worked with new suppliers, new health inspectors, new training programs. He installed cameras in every kitchen, implemented anonymous reporting systems, and created protocols that made it virtually impossible for contaminated food to be served. The costs were staggering, nearly $500,000 before a single restaurant could even consider reopening. Monica ran the numbers one evening in the corporate office, her face grim. "Darius, we're burning through capital, legal fees, victim compensation, renovation costs, lost revenue. At this rate, we'll be bankrupt in 4 months." "Then we'll be bankrupt," Darius said quietly. "But we'll be bankrupt with clear consciences." "That doesn't pay the bills." "No, it doesn't. But it lets me sleep at night." The trials began in June. Blake Carter went first, facing charges of assault with a deadly weapon, food tampering, witness intimidation, and conspiracy. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. Jordan's videos, the contaminated pot pies, the hidden notebook detailing his methods, testimony from victims and staff. Blake's lawyer tried to argue temporary insanity, claimed Blake had been pressured by HSG to commit crimes. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Blake received 15 years in federal prison. As they led him away, he looked at Darius in the courtroom gallery. There was no remorse in his eyes, only cold hatred. Marcus Chen's trial followed, then Victoria Harrison's. One by one, the conspirators were convicted and sentenced. Tony Chen, the corrupt health inspector, got 12 years. Victoria Harrison got 25. The CFO of HSG got 18. By August, 31 of the 37 defendants had been convicted, with the remaining 6 taking plea deals. But convictions didn't reopen restaurants. They didn't restore trust. They didn't bring back customers. By September, Darius had reopened only one location, the original Mama Lorraine's kitchen, the one his mother had started. He'd gutted it completely, rebuilt it from scratch, and staffed it with employees who'd been through extensive retraining. He'd installed glass walls so customers could see directly into the kitchen. He'd brought in third-party inspectors for weekly audits. He'd done everything possible to prove it was safe. The reopening day was tense. A handful of protesters stood outside with signs reading "Never Forget" and "Boycott Blood Money." Inside, even fewer customers sat at tables, nervous and uncertain. Darius worked the floor himself, talking to every person who came in, answering questions, showing them the kitchen, explaining the new protocols. One of those customers was Angela Reeves. She came in with Sophia, who held her mother's hand tightly, her eyes wide as she looked around the restaurant. "Mr. Wellington," Angela said quietly, "we'd like to order the fried chicken platter," the same thing Sophia had before. Darius felt his heart clench. "Mrs. Reeves, are you sure?" "I'm sure. You've proven you'll do anything to make this right. You've lost almost everything fighting to keep people safe. That's the kind of person I want to support. That's the kind of business I want my daughter to see, one that takes responsibility and does better." Darius personally oversaw the preparation of their meal. He checked every ingredient, monitored every temperature, inspected every step. When the plates came out, golden and perfect, he carried them to their table himself. Sophia looked at the chicken, then at Darius, then at her mother. "It's okay, baby," Angela said softly. "It's safe now." The little girl picked up a drumstick and took a tiny tentative bite. She chewed slowly, and Darius held his breath. Then she smiled. "It's good," Sophia said. "Really good." Darius felt tears burn his eyes. That small moment, a child trusting his food again, eating without fear, smiling, was worth more than any profit margin or business success ever could be. Over the following weeks, more customers came. Slowly at first, then in growing numbers. Word spread that Darius was being transparent about everything, that he'd sacrificed his business to protect people, that Mama Lorraine's Kitchen was now the safest restaurant in Atlanta because they'd learned the hardest way possible what happened when you didn't prioritize safety above all else. By October, Darius had reopened a second location. By December, a third. The remaining two would take longer. They needed more extensive renovations, but they'd reopen eventually. Jordan Ellis became the head chef at the original location, promoted for his courage and integrity. Tasha, the young cook who'd told Darius about Marcus Chen's locked storage room, became kitchen manager at the Midtown location. The business would never be what it was. They'd lost too much money, too much trust, too much momentum. But it was honest now. It was safe. And it stood for something that mattered. On a cold January morning, exactly 1 year after Darius had found the contaminated glove in the pot pie, he stood in his mother's original restaurant before opening, looking at her photograph on the wall. Monica stood beside him, and Raymond had stopped by for breakfast before work. "You know what I realized?" Darius said quietly. "My mother didn't build this business to make money. She built it to feed people, to create community, to give people a place where they felt cared for. I spent so long trying to preserve what she built that I forgot to preserve what she stood for. The buildings, the locations, the brand, those were never the point. The point was always the people." "She'd be proud of you," Monica said. "You lost almost everything, but you never lost sight of what mattered." "Almost everything," Darius corrected. "I lost the business as it was. But I gained something more important. I gained the ability to look myself in the mirror. I gained the respect of people like Angela Reeves and Jordan Ellis. I gained the knowledge that when I had to choose between profit and people, I chose people. That's worth more than 5 successful restaurants ever could be." His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number made his stomach tighten reflexively, but when he opened it, the message wasn't a threat. "Mr. Wellington, this is Sarah Martinez, Agent Martinez's daughter. I'm doing a school project about people who did the right thing even when it was hard. Can I interview you? My dad says you're a real hero." Darius smiled, feeling warmth spread through his chest. Not a hero, just a man who'd tried to fix his mistakes. But if his story could inspire even one person to choose integrity over profit, to speak up instead of stay silent, to fight for what's right even when it's hard, then maybe everything he'd lost had been worth it. "Tell her yes," Darius said to Raymond. "And tell your partner that I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who learned that the hardest right is always better than the easiest wrong." 2 months later, on a Saturday afternoon when the original Mama Lorraine's Kitchen was packed with customers, the door opened and a face Darius never expected to see walked in. It was Blake Carter's former sous chef from Buckhead, a man named Anthony, who'd been fired early in the investigation for cooperating with the FBI. "Mr. Wellington," Anthony said nervously, "I know I got fired, and I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I wanted to say thank you for not throwing me under the bus. For telling the FBI I was trying to stop Blake but was too scared. I got a job at another restaurant, and I'm doing good, and it's because you stood up for me even after everything that happened." "You tried to do the right thing," Darius said simply. "That matters." "I was wondering," Anthony hesitated, "if you ever need help. If you ever need someone who knows what it's like to work in fear and wants to work in a place that's honest, I'd love to apply. I know I don't deserve it." "Come by Tuesday at 10 a.m., Darius interrupted. "We'll talk. I'm always looking for people who care about doing right." After Anthony left, smiling with tears in his eyes, Jordan came out of the kitchen. "Boss, we've got a problem," Jordan said, but he was smiling. "What kind of problem?" "The good kind. We're out of mac and cheese, nearly out of collard greens, and we've got a wait list for tables. We can't keep up with demand." Darius laughed, a real laugh, the first one that had come easily in months. "Then let's get cooking. We've got people to feed." As he headed toward the kitchen, he passed his mother's photograph one more time. She smiled at him from that frame, and he could swear he heard her voice one last time, clear as a bell. "That's my boy. That's exactly right." The restaurant hummed with life and conversation and laughter. The smell of good food filled the air, real food, safe food, made with care and integrity. Outside, the sign glowed against the evening sky. Mama Lorraine's Kitchen. It wasn't the empire it had been, but it was something better. It was honest. It was safe. And it stood as proof that sometimes burning everything down and rebuilding from the foundation was the only way to preserve what truly mattered. Darius tied on his apron and joined his team in the kitchen, ready to feed the people who trusted him with their health and their families. There would always be challenges ahead. Corrupt people would always exist. Shortcuts would always be tempting. But every time he felt that temptation, he'd remember Sophia Reeves taking that first brave bite of chicken, smiling because she knew she was safe. He'd remember Jordan Ellis risking everything to document the truth. He'd remember Angela Reeves choosing courage over fear. And he'd remember that the highest calling of any business wasn't profit or growth or expansion. It was the sacred responsibility to do right by the people who trusted you. That was the legacy his mother had left him. Not restaurants or recipes, but integrity. And that was a legacy worth fighting for, no matter the cost.